So I was watching one of my friends play Pokémon Emerald, one of my favorite games, and I thought to myself that it'd be a cool project to recreate a part of it in the Godot game engine. For one, because of the nostalgia, and just because I thought it'd be a fun learning experience. I didn't grow up with it, I grew up with the remakes of Gen 3, Pokémon Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, also very good games. After I was done playing, I opened Godot and made the player character. This took a while, because not like in most 2D games, old Pokémon games have tile-based movement, which is just annoying to implement. Then I realized that I was way too uncreative to make the pixel art myself, so I used Sprites resource to rip the assets. Maybe one day I'll get good at pixel art, but it won't be with this project. The next thing I needed to do was to make the rooms in which the player could walk around in, and you need to be able to transition between them, which was pretty easy. I made a system that detects if the player collides with the transition object, and then plays a fade animation, removes the current room, instances a new one, and changes the player's position. This system works pretty well. One thing missing is Y-Sort, we'll get back to that in a minute. Here you can see me making all of the rooms of the project, biggest of which was the third room, which is the entire overworld basically. The hardest part of this project was making all of the rooms, because every room has a tile map and a tile set, and I needed to manually set all of the tiles by myself. I later realized that my approach was inefficient and I should have split the overworld into pieces, because the performance while instancing the whole map is just not good. But I didn't, and I spent way too much time making this giant scene, and it's going to stay that way until I update it. And after that I started making the thing that makes Pokémon, the battle system. I started by reading up on random encounter tiles. There is a nice article on Bulbapedia. Anyways, you know how in Pokemon the player vanishes behind the lower half of tall grass? That's a problem, because my tile map is 16 by 16 and I instanced the map in a way so that there can be no Y-sorting. I changed the instancing, now the player is removed an instance as a child of the tile map, so it can Y-sort. It was kind of a pain to get right, and sometimes it has some unexpected behavior, but it works for now. In short, if the player collides with any encounter tile, it generates a random number from 0 to 2879. If that number is lower than the threshold, it creates a species and level. Tall grass, for example, normally has a threshold of 320, in the Safari Zone it has 400, and there are many different ones which I'm not going to go into. If you want to know, read the article in the description. There are also modifiers like bicycles, the white flute, the black flute, the cleanse tag, and abilities which I blatantly ignored. You don't need those. Now you've triggered an encounter. You have a species and level for that Pokemon, you still need to generate a moveset. All of the 135 Pokemons have a learn set made up from all of the attacks, from which you pick the last 4 with the level you have. One of the many reasons why this took me so long is because I needed to write every one of those, plus the base stats down. Here you can see me doing that. Now to the battle. While starting the battle script sets all UI elements like HP bar, name of the Pokemon, level of the Pokemon, etc. When that's finished, you have the start animation of the battle, which you can see here. To the fun part of Pokemon, damage calculations. Everybody loves damage calculations. The damage normally done to a Pokemon would be this, but I sure as hell am not going to implement something like that, so I simplified it for the clone. It's 2 times the level of the user over 5 plus 2, and that times the power of the attack and times the user's attack stat over the enemy's defense stat. Again, all of that over 50 plus 2. This is the base damage. Now there are modifiers like the same attack type bonus, which is 1.5 if the attack type matches any of the user's types. Another thing is type effectiveness. Take this type effectiveness chart for example. If you have an attack type like water and a defending type like fire, you're going to be super effective. So the type effectiveness is going to be 2. When the defending Pokemon has 2 types, this check is done twice. The last thing that's multiplied with the total is a random number from 85 to 100, which is then divided by 100. The Pokemon community calls this a roll. It's random, so if you use the attack multiple times, there's always going to be some variance between the attacks. There are many attacks in Pokemon, so I spent a long while trying to copy them all into Godot, which you can see here. I stopped when I had the initial menu system, the attacks, the UI for the bag, the UI for the Pokemon, and the enemy AI. The enemy AI is just randomly selecting an attack, it's doing nothing special. I also implemented a kind of leveling. In Pokemon you normally have multiple leveling groups, like erratic, fast, medium slow, and fluctuating. A Pokemon in a certain group takes a different amount of experience to level up than a Pokemon in a different group. But I didn't want to copy 135 things and implement a leveling system, so I just used medium fast for all of them. Medium fast is the one with the easiest function, it's just x cubed. It kind of works. After you finish the battle, you go back to the overworld and apparently get a weird error. I don't understand it and I couldn't fix it, but it doesn't crash the game, so I'm just gonna ignore it. If someone knows how to fix this, or even knows what it means, then please write it in the comments. I still needed to do a couple of other things, like the title screen and save system. The animation is not really good, but it works for now. The save system also works, but it takes quite a while to load into the third room because of the massive tile map. Another essential thing missing were the NPCs and the dialogue system. I had to create a font for the dialogue system because I didn't find one on the internet that quite fit my game. Last but not least, the sound and music. It was a pain to implement all of the sounds for the game, but it works. At least the sounds I found work. And here you can see the finished product. The clone is still missing plenty of features. There are no trainer battles, the inventory exists but does not work, and you can't use Poké Centers and so on. Also, like 95% of the map has to be redone because my approach was stupid. This took me way longer to implement than it actually should have. One last thing, please like and subscribe so I can make more of these videos, and tell me whether or not you'd like a tutorial series on how to program something like this. If the next update takes as long as this video, then I'm probably going to come back around New Year's. If you want updates, join the Discord. Overall, it was a really fun experience. I'd recommend it to everyone. 7 out of 10.